All right, Travel Diaries, Las Vegas. I'm out the door here at the Sahara. I always try to stay in my hotel room as long as I can. If I get a first knock, I'll always like oblige it, say hello, I'm out the door. But I really don't leave until I get that second knock. And when I get that second knock, then it's time to leave, because that's really when they need the room. Really enjoyed my time at the Sahara. By the way, this place is pretty much still the SLS and the W. They are in the process of remodeling it. But it was just remodeled, so they are remodeling their remodel, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but I do understand that they want to have some continuity instead of just like a hotel with a bunch of different designs and concepts. This room is just like the SLS Brickell that I stayed in, and just like the SLS Miami Beach, which has a José Andrés restaurant, this place has a José Andrés restaurant. And that's what I want to talk about today. You know, this is just my travel diary series where I go one-on-one with the camera. If you want to see like my full-blown experience video with all this footage, go ahead and check the link in the description below. But I just kind of want to have like a conversation with you, well, I guess a monologue, about the restaurant here, the steak place. I know a lot of you like the places that I eat at, specifically the steak places. A proper steakhouse is one of the tenets, it's one of the rudiments of a proper Vegas vacation. And you know, I had the list in my head going into this place what my top Vegas steakhouses were, and it probably went like this. It probably went John George's at Aria number 1, and then I would probably put SW at number 2, and then number 3, maybe Barry's. I might put Barry's up at number 3, you know, and then of course you got Bavette's, Gordon Ramsay steak, and I know I'm missing a few. I have to go through it. That's just off the top of my head. I know I'm missing one big one in there. This place just threw off everything. 3 days removed, like 72 hours later, like I finally have some clarity on how I feel about José Andrés Bazaar Meats. And here's the thing that threw me off. This is unlike any other steakhouse I have ever seen, not just in Vegas. And in Vegas, like, you'll get a lot of differentiation because it's Vegas. You have to have style. You have to be unique. You have to try to be different. You have to kind of set yourself apart and be creative. This place is unlike anything else. And Las Vegas Review Journal put this at Best of Vegas in 18, Best of Vegas in 19. Obviously, 2020 was an off year for everybody. Business Insider called this the best restaurant in Nevada. Restaurant in Nevada, not steakhouse in Vegas. We're talking restaurants. So we're throwing in Italian restaurants, we're throwing in French restaurants, we're throwing in Asian restaurants. They're saying this is the best restaurant in Nevada. And then there was one person, some critically acclaimed food critic, who said it's the best meat place in America. So this is some really, really like bold rhetoric. But walking into the place, I will say this, it was an experience, okay? So when you walk in, there is an LED light roof. Roof or roof? I think in Wisconsin we say roof, but I'm pretty sure it's a roof. There's an LED roof, okay? And it leads you into like the restaurant, and that just kind of gets like the senses going. And then you walk into the restaurant and it's split. To the right you can go to the fine dining, and to the left you can go to the bar, and in the middle of the restaurant is the open air meat bazaar. This thing is gargantuan. Like, it is the size of some smaller restaurants, this meat place, and there are the best cuts of meat. Like, these things are pieces of art on display. All the chefs are out in the open cutting up the meat and making the dishes. Like, I love an open air environment because I think it really shows that they have confidence in their cleanliness and in their cooking, and it just adds an element of transparency, because sometimes you might wonder what really goes on behind those closed doors of the kitchen. Well, there are no closed doors here at Bazaar Meats. Everything is out in the open for you to see, and I just think that really adds a bit of confidence to the meal. And there were flames everywhere, and the chefs were just running about doing their thing. It really gave like a sense of energy and action, and really kind of made you feel like you were in the middle of the cooking process. Even though you were either at the bar or fine dining, you still had like a perfect view into that open air meat bazaar, and it was a really, really neat experience. So I'm going to get to why this place is the most unique steakhouse I've ever been to, and what makes it so different. And I think this would be a great segue. When I opened up the menu, I was taken aback. I was perplexed. I really had no idea that this was the type of place it was. And what do I mean by that? This place is more Michelin star restaurant than it is steakhouse. Okay, like Steakhouses are fun, but they get a knock, and it's a knock that I will give on steakhouses sometimes too, from a guy who's done a lot of client dinners and either a ton of steakhouses on and off the channel. They get boring, they get repetitive, they get predictable. It's kind of like a bland culinary experience. I mean, you're gonna get your sustenance, you're gonna get your slab of meat, you're gonna get your sides, but I bet if you go to steakhouses, you could walk in to a random steakhouse, like a good steakhouse, and without even seeing the menu, predict like at least half of the things that are gonna be on the menu, right? You're gonna have not only, obviously your cuts of meat, those are easy, right? Like your ribeye and your New York strip and your prime rib and your filet mignon, and maybe if it's a nice place, you're gonna have your Chateaubriand or your Delmonico, obviously, right? And then you're gonna have your crab cocktail, shrimp cocktail, maybe a crab cake. You're gonna have your thick cut bacon, and then for the vegetables, of course you're gonna have oysters, and then for the vegetables you're gonna have your spinach and your corn and your potatoes, and I could go on and on. That's just off the top of my head, right? It's so predictable. This place had me flabbergasted. I mentioned the top steakhouses in Vegas: SW Steakhouse, John George's, Bavette's, Wolfgang Putt Cut. I think that's the one I'm missing. Wolfgang Putt Cut, Gordon Ramsay Steak, Barry's. Okay, if you took all the dishes on those restaurants, all the menu items, this menu is bigger and better than all of those combined. Yep. They just didn't have one A5. Wagyu or Kobe beef, they had 5 of them from 5 separate regions in Japan. They had a tasting menu. Not just, what steakhouse has a tasting menu? This place has a tasting menu, and it's not a prefix menu, okay? There's a difference between a tasting menu and like a prefix menu where you order your app and your soup and your salad and your dinner and your side and a dessert. Okay, that's like a prefix menu. This is a tasting menu, and they had, which is something you typically find at an ultra high-end restaurant. And they just didn't have one tasting menu, they had 2. I think this steakhouse is perfect for those that get really bored with the steakhouse experience. And for those of you that have a culinary flair and a culinary fervor and you just kind of are let down by the steakhouse experience because it's so bland, boring, and predictable, this is going to serve you very well. The creativity of the dishes, again, belonged in a Michelin guide. It did not belong in a steakhouse. Cotton candy faux gras, salmon and lox cones, smoke and ice oysters, 3 types of tartars, 2 types of steak tartare specifically. It was just like a cornucopia of like culinary brilliance and culinary uniqueness. It was really unbelievable. So when I got done with the meal, my 12-course meal, I didn't know what to think because I was trying to compare it to a steakhouse, like an SW Steakhouse or a Barry's, and those are just traditional, amazing traditional, but classic, traditional, institutional places. This place is avant-garde. This place is en vogue. This is elevating or trying to actually maybe even pivot what the steakhouse experience is like. You can't compare it. There's no comparison. Now, the meat was just as good as what I had in any other place. It was fine, but it's the culinary experience that really set it apart. And I think if you're about the culinary experience, you got to go to José Andrés. The aesthetics are a bit of a letdown, and some of you might be saying, James, it's about the meal. But I think more important than the meal is the experience. That's why you're paying the high-end money, and that's part of what commands that high price tag on those items is the experience. The service was a little lacking at the bar, and there weren't that many people in there. And then, of course, the aesthetics and the ambiance weren't what I expected. And I do understand that this property is old, right? I think this property's been around for 60 or 70 years. They may not have had a lot to work with, and maybe that is why the aesthetic is a little off. I'm not sure, but I feel like it could have been done a little better. So before my stay here at the Sahara and before my culinary experience at José Andrés Bazaar Meats, I had my top steakhouses locked, and I did not expect anything to break up that top 5. And not only did Bazaar Meats by José Andrés bust in and break into the top 5, I think it might have taken that top spot. So let me know your thoughts. Let me know your favorite steak places in Las Vegas. Have you been to Bazaar Meats by José Andrés? Have you been to any other of his restaurants? Because all of his restaurants are really unique, very creative. I mean, brilliantly creative. Everything he touches has a unique flair. You can definitely tell it's a José Andrés restaurant. Have you been to this one here? Do you think it's more Michelin star restaurant than it is steakhouse? Do you think it's too much? And let me know what you think about the interior inside. That is it for this video. I need to get out of here. I'm off to another hotel, and I'll see you in that video.